All right, welcome everybody.
Wild evening. If you're a political junkie and you're watching the debate that Tim Pool said they weren't going to watch, but they did do some. By the way, they
They
did
did
watch it.
do a little bit. Okay.
They did do a little bit.
I was struggling to I was going around trying to find people and I was trying to find cuz there's all these people out there who are they're commentating over it and they're talking over it and I was just like,
Yeah,
dude,
I
I'm
ended
not
up
trying to get
watching.
like filled with your bias of all this
Right.
nonsense.
So I started off listening to Crowder's stream. This is like before it started, and
Yeah.
as it's going though, he just keeps talking. I'm like, okay. So I brought up the Rumble thing of the Fox News just straight up broadcast. Get out of here, Crowder. So I got
Oh,
rid of
see, I didn't know that they did that. I ended up just going to this guy who he like just smokes pot during the commercial breaks and
it.
plays hip hop music, but he doesn't say anything during any of it.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, I got the full experience. I'm good. And I got some good music. So I was like, all right, this works for me.
I'm like a kid in a candy shop with nights like this. There's so much. There's so much, and like right now, I have like the backstage Daily Wire backstage type of thing. Like all the guys like they're doing their after debate stuff, and I'm like, after I get off of this, I'm watching all that. I'm just like crazy. But
Yeah.
it was a little bit. It was disappointing for me with in terms of Vivek, but that's fine for me to be knocked down a little bit. Vivek did fine, but he was way too overzealous. First off, like he started off like really smiley and whatever else, like, oh, hey, that's a lot of
He
energy,
was
dude.
taking
That's a lot of
shots.
energy. And then he said the line of the puppets line, like, okay,
I'm the only one who's not a paid for
I'm
puppet
like,
here.
okay, I agree with you. This is not the place for it when people are first being introduced to you and they already have a horse in the race, right? You don't want to call what like someone that's listening that already has a horse in their backing. You don't want to immediately insult them by saying your guy's a puppet. So even though that's a thing that he believes, that needs to be something that happens later. They can hear that in a stump speech, they can hear it somewhere else, but right out the gate, I thought he's like, I want to fight everybody. I'm like, dude, you
Dude,
don't need to fight everybody yet.
I was all in on it. I mean, I get okay. How would I go about it? Okay, so I feel like he came out swinging with lines like that, right? And personally, I thought it was something that really set him aside from everybody
Yes,
else.
it did.
He had several moments where he raised his hand first and he
Boom, Trump,
raised it
boom,
high. He
like
would raise
Ukraine,
it
boom,
and
or
raise it
sorry,
high,
yeah,
you know. And I felt like that was somewhat of a powerful moment for him to kind of do, right? And you kind of
yeah,
see when they asked some question. I don't even remember what it was right now, but and it was like, oh, I think it was like the pardon or something. Maybe it was something else.
yeah. It's about, well, they asked you a question about like, would you vote for Trump um if he were the nominee, or
Would you pardon him or something? Or it was
what was that?
something, but everybody raised their hand. He was the first to go, and then it kind of like you could see it do, and Chris Christie was kind of like,
Like, no, I was doing
uh,
this.
yeah, he was like, no, I was kind of doing like this, like I don't really know. Like he kind of caught him out. Like he had his positions and he held them strongly enough to know
Yeah,
what he was going to do as soon as the questions were answered.
yeah,
Whereas everybody else, especially Chris Christie, it seemed like,
yeah.
and many of the other people, they're kind of looking down the aisle, kind of seeing like, so who's raising their hand on this one, which casts
So,
a lot of doubt,
yeah.
at least in my mind, of like where your actual
So,
position is.
so Christy did get a good one on Vivek
Chat
because
GPT. That was
early,
a good one.
yeah, it was good. I mean, it's a pre-planned type of idea in his
Of
head, yes.
course, yeah, it
However,
was.
it did feel pretty organic because Vivek was coming off really strong. Like
Oh
here's like
yeah,
here's like he's out there, and it's just like, hey, chill, dude, chill, dude. That's kind of the
dude,
attitude. And so
I
you're
was
just like, hey, I'm seeing
largely
this guy already. So I'm like, I get it because he's not feeling the same energy as in the room, which is good in one way.
yeah,
And so I felt like it felt authentic for him to criticize Vivek in that way. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be,
yeah.
what I'm trying to be is, I don't like to just be all, I'm trying to tell you the worst things. I do feel like it's not that I don't appreciate Vivek and who he is. I'm just saying how it came off to a lot of people that weren't ready for it.
And that's fine. That's fine. The way that it came, kind of more or less came off to me, was he's the way at the end of the day, and tell me if I'm off on this, if you feel like I'm off on this, is he has set himself apart from every single person on that stage
Sure.
as a Trump light or a Trump like, right?
Yeah.
He's somebody like, when Trump got on the stage, he was not like any of the other candidates, and everybody could see and everybody could tell.
Yeah.
And when Vivek got up there, he he separated himself from everyone. He knew his positions. He didn't flip flop on any of them. He was very on point and very directed towards it. And not only that, he gave his reasons and rationale for it. And I think one of the things that brought him the credibility was him kind of separating himself by saying, look, you guys are all bought and paid for by your donors and all that stuff because you guys are in the system. You guys might not like to hear that, and I understand why you guys would be upset about it.
Towards the end, I would like to hear that towards the end, and I would say that, you know what,
Dude, he riled them up.
yeah,
They got mad.
Obviously, Vivek came back with some very strong, that whole exchange with Christie later on. He roasted Christie.
Oof.
Really, he got him good. He got him good with that.
And Pence. He just he wrecked on him. Yeah.
You know, I in general, so obviously we jumped right to Vivek because you can't help it, because that's kind of my horse in this fight, and your horse in this fight.
I think that he's the standout. He's the standout person. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to talk about what's his name on the far left end of the thing, or the far
Asa,
right, or even
Asa. So I will say a lot of things. Like, I did not like Asa at all. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here?
Who?
Bergomentum.
Oh,
I'm like, hey,
he had some good moments.
What I mean is, he doesn't have any star power. He's not going anywhere. That's not the point. But I'm saying, like, he's saying something like, you know what? Facts, dude.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like his approach. I like his tact. I like how he's even talking about Ukraine, Russia. Everything he was saying. I'm like, yes, I like your take. And even the states' rights issue with everything, the states' rights center thing.
That I was like, absolutely. And you know what I thought was really interesting in that, though, was that Vivek didn't even have a comment on it. He didn't insert himself on it. He just allowed that whole wave to just wash right over him, which tactically I think is actually probably a really smart move. Yeah. Even though I believe that his position is more on the states' rights position.
Yes, but that is a fantastic. If you're going to pass on an issue or not press the equal time situation, that's one to do it.
That's one to do it on. I mean, he played that clock brilliantly. Yeah. And okay, when they say we don't need somebody who's new, we don't need somebody who's young and inexperienced. It's like, dude, he conquered that stage. Vivek, like,
you feel like he did?
I absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. He's the reason
like
that
he struck a different tone than the people in the room, and that a lot of people weren't cheering on him as much. Like, I felt like it was like, there's some things, but he
had his hard moments.
It was slow. Like, some people applause to him. It didn't have as much energy. I did feel like DeSantis did a good job. I try looking at things from a not what I feel like. Like, I'm looking at it from, like, what is
a general perspective.
Yeah, a general perspective, what people wanted to see. And did he look like he was weak? I think he did. I think it was actually good. Him talking about the school children. I mean, the school children line is a little bit strong, but like the idea of raising hands, and I think that exchange was fine. It was very human. Like his reaction with, like, not wanting it says, yes, okay, yes, Pence, good job, but I don't think we should do this. You know, yes, you did the right thing by doing your constitution. Yes, I just don't think we should be talking about this. I think that he humanized himself in a lot of ways that which was a necessary piece that's been missing, is that people see him as robotic or just like no charisma. And I
Are you
feel
talking
like
about DeSantis here?
yes, I felt
Okay.
like he felt like a real person, at least in there. And I'm saying he did some of the things that he had to do tonight. I don't think he stood out enough to like make much difference, but I feel like he did not hurt himself, and he did some things that will
Do you think that he made
come out.
himself memorable? I feel like Vivek is
Um,
probably Vivek,
oh, he's
Pence,
memorable, yeah, for sure. Um,
and
yeah,
Christie made themselves memorable, and even Haley made themselves memorable. But I think Vivek is the only one that really made himself memorable in more of a positive tone.
yep,
Nikki
exactly.
Haley, there was a point. I don't remember what the topic is per se, but I remember when she was just like going at Vivek, and she just did to me. She just kind of came off like I don't want to hear I don't want to listen I don't want to listen to you right now. Like the way that you sound is
Um,
a odd familiar sound of the type that I'm not too interested in listening to.
okay.
And it was and maybe what she was saying had some level of fair game. Um
I felt like she was all she like. I
but
felt
she
at
seemed
times I
mad.
was like, you know what? Okay. At certain points, I'm like, okay, I can see that angle. But then for the most part, it just was like, it's just not what I'm interested in. So it's
She
I
had an
really try
interesting
to
angle on abortion. The abortion angle I thought
yes,
was an interesting one. But
yeah,
it was so vague. It was kind of like, look, we don't like it came off to me from what I'm kind of processing now out of it is like it felt like a um there's too many men and not enough women um in the Senate to be able to make that decision
yeah. So she's
justifiably.
playing the woman card a little bit too much. She did that a lot, which is fine to be a woman, to be pro woman. I get that's fine as long as you're not anti man. It's fine. Um,
Yeah.
so for people that don't know, when I'm watching this, I don't watch it from a purely perspective. I don't actually watch it for me. Like what half my brain is saying is putting another person next to me, and I'm watching it like a reaction video for them, like almost like what are they seeing?
Right.
And so that's where so I'm not completely looking at like yes, I like to hear that. Therefore, he did a good job. I don't. I'm trying to look at things of where like
From an
someone is
outside
seeing it.
perspective.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that Asa did himself any favors with anybody. He just I honestly feel like he just came off as very I don't know, very blah and
Asa,
he nothing at all.
is
He
that
came
Hutchinson? Asa
yes,
Hutchinson? He's
yes.
the guy that was on the far left of the
Far
screen or whatever.
left, yes. He's like,
Okay.
why are
Yeah.
you here? Why are you
Yeah,
here? No one
I when you said Asa or even earlier, I was like, I don't know who you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, sorry, it's um so what I did get the impression of like why are you here? Like you're saying stuff that's there's cliche things, and you're saying and you're completely opposite on a lot of these issues, and no one really wants this. And I don't feel like there's any support really.
But at the same time, though, Vivek was opposite of a few issues.
He
I mean,
got
he's
you're
the
right.
only one that raised his hand when it came to
Ukraine.
Ukraine, and nobody else did. And
Nobody in that room liked his take.
I, I kind of I
And
feel
that's
like
what I'll
I
say.
just no other candidate up there liked his take, but I
I
feel like
didn't
there were
hear many
people
people in the audience. I was like I said, I
really.
listened for that. I feel the
I
audience is
might have
not
missed that.
ooh, like it's not what you did here. It's not like necessarily a bunch of boos. It was more like oh almost like
Mm,
they're like and they weren't they're all like yeah, but I hear what you're saying. You didn't have the groundswell of
dude, I'm
whatever.
so on
It
board
wasn't
with
there.
his take on Ukraine. I'm
I am
so
too.
on board
I
with
am
it.
on board with it too. But people are not ready for that until they need to be nuanced into it with hearing about it, talked about it like in a longer form version.
Yeah, a lot of people I've learned don't
it,
understand it.
the 15-second bam, 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 and people are like, "What? I've never heard this before. What? Are we supposed to love Ukraine? Who's this guy? Does he like Russia? Does he like?" So people have that type of reaction, and since this is him being introduced to a lot of people that have never seen him before. So that's why I'm saying that I think he missed, like, even though he said things he believes and he says stuff I've heard over the last couple months, I feel like the puppet line early on was too much, too early, too soon. And I think
I did feel that.
And I think that the Ukraine thing was I feel he should have said something. This is a longer conversation, and a lot of you aren't going to like it. But I'm gonna tell you, I think that there are no good guys, no bad. He said this concept before. There are no good guys and bad guys in this, even including the United States with how we're approaching this with Russia, Ukraine, and whatever else. It's not as simple as just Putin bad, and say like I think we should be using it, and then go into kind of his little thing, just to kind of ease people into the idea of being open-minded. Like, I think he should have done more of that type of thing, and then saying that I'm not a fan of us spending money in Ukraine for these reasons, because so I know what we can spend money on, and he did already know the argument that Pence made about that we can do two things at once from the previous interview. So I think he failed at not preempting that argument. I feel that's a failure that he could that Vivek could have had some really clever something that he worked into his statement that would preempt that even being an attack on him, where he could. So I just feel like he failed in that way, and like I feel like he could have. You don't have to hide what you believe. It's just that people are they're being introduced to them, and everything is a shock like this, and like that whole puppet line. While, as you know, you see what he means by puppet. He's actually talking about the super PACs and how super PACs will donate money, but then they'll kind of require, but they're like, we don't donate this money, but how do you feel about abortion? Are you sure? Maybe we should nuance a little way. Okay, and then then they'll maybe give you some money. So it's like the super PACs control your messaging, and they basically say that we're not really looking to support someone that talks quite this way. And so when they're the puppets of the super PAC, it's that these super PACs just donate tons of money, in a sense, or like in-kind donations. Basically they run their own shadow organization that is supporting the candidate. So that's what he means by it. But when people say puppets, when he says outward like that, and people don't understand all the context and how even the financial system works, they're like, what?
Well, I think what he's aiming for
on a state at the same time.
I think what he's aiming for, though, is the Trump supporter. And so when he says the puppets, when he says the puppets, he's talking about here's an entire, like, look to the left of me, look to the right of me, all the way down the line on either side. It doesn't matter. All of these people have been going out to donors. They've been following special interests. They've been dealing with lobbyists. They've been going through this political process. I haven't had to do any of that. I don't have to. I have a brain of my own that I get to say what I want when I want, and I get to say what I mean. And with all these other people, they don't have that.
Minutes. See, that's a 2-minute conversation, and he has to do it in 20 to 30 seconds. So,
he can throw out an introduction, and not only that, what he can also do, in my opinion, what he can do is he can expose them by throwing it out in a 25, 30-second moment where he just says, I'm the only person up here who's not a puppet, a special interest puppet, right? And then that's gonna, I mean, as you saw, you got to see everybody, and this is one of the things I think that is a presidential quality that people are instinctively able to judge, is who flies off the handle, right? Yeah. Everyone flew off the handle, right? Most of them. Everyone close to the center.
He did directly attack everyone there.
Everyone there. And most everyone flew off the handle. Yes. They lost composure. And that's a powerful political move.
That's what led to Christie being able to make his statement.
Chat GPT.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Pence, you're a new guy. like, but a lot of those were, they kind of like, maybe they're humorous, or maybe it's kind of like there's some levels of truth to it, but nothing ever came close to, I mean, if you were to compare those insults, as they may be, or ad hominems, whatever you might want to call them, compared to him saying, you guys are all puppets, like, it has that line. I agree. I fully agree that it was somewhat of a low blow. It was somewhat uncalled for. It was somewhat unprofessional. But if who your aim is to attract is the largest majority of the voter base,
I mean,
Trump's the Trump's people, they are going to eat that up. They are going to
they're
love
gonna
it.
eat it up tomorrow or the day after because they weren't watching it. Because they weren't watching that because they were watching
I bet you
Trump
they
and Trump.
were.
You
I
know,
bet you.
depends.
I'll be
Depends.
honestly. I'll be honest. I think that they were, because I think that when it comes to this situation, this is a live situation, and people want to see some. People are much more interested. Good luck. As an example, go try looking up um, Elon Musk launching a rocket that's pre-recorded, and then watch a live one.
Yeah.
Completely different
Yeah.
experiences. And so I think that this Republican debate, it's a live one. You got to watch it here, you got to watch it now, and we got to commentate on it now. But Trump's, after we're done with this, I've got it set up on here already. I've got it set up to watch, right? I can watch it, right? And it's because it wasn't even recorded during this time. It wasn't a live
Yeah.
situation. So
I watched 10 minutes of it already because it was up before they really got going.
yeah, and so I think that I'm sure that there's a lot of people that watch it, but I think a lot of people got their first impressions off of this.
So
Plus, they had to go to Twitter to go see it. So
yeah. So okay. So what I mean is, it's not that there aren't people that do fit into the category of what you're talking about. The Trump supporters that just kind of want to see what else is out there. There are people like me that there are people like me that watch it or that have different starting points. But when you're talking about the true Trump, like, okay, so I have a family member, I'll keep it more vague, but family member that is very, very pro Trump, that if he's doing this for with the reasons that he stated in the beginning of the Tucker interview, is the idea of basically Fox News is not very friendly to me. They're basically not being fair to me, and he says all this kind of stuff. And you know what? That's how. That's the more 100% you are supporting Trump, the more you are doing the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm not even watching that debate. I'm not going to watch that because it didn't matter. They're like they're almost in lockstep with Trump in what he's doing. So like those people, they might hear about it in clips tomorrow and the day after is what I'm saying, but they're not watching it live. I don't think most of them.
okay,
Because
so to
go ahead.
somebody who is like of the mindset of I am 100% Trump, there is no alternative, right? The question I would end up asking is like, what about after, right? Say Trump wins in 2024, right? And then now what? Now what? Right? Now who is the person that you, because if to me Vivek is the closest thing to what Trump has to offer the country. Vivek
Mhm.
is at hands down the closest thing. And so the way that I look at it is like, look, I can still vote for Trump. Like he can still be my guy, or I can support Trump 100%. He can still be my guy. But I don't think that there's a harm in seeing if you can identify
Yeah.
the next person and get on board with them a little bit early and show your support with them a
Or
little bit early.
or even just being able to um see to see who's out there and what they do bring to the table in some other venue or whatever, some other application in the
Yeah.
like some people will just be like, you're going as my guy, so now you are evil. So now you are
Yeah.
evil, and there's nothing good about you, and I hate you forever. And like, what? These
That's
are people.
you're shooting yourself in the foot down the road. Like you're making it much more difficult to figure out what to do. Now, I fully understand it being like, okay, there's Trump, and Trump is is a very specific type of a character. He fulfills a specific kind of a mold. He has a very specific kind of agenda. Um, but like, I feel like it's important that someone can say, "Hey, you know what? Who do we have that's next?" And if you just reject all of that, I feel like it ends up just being a large disservice to yourself. Um, and I think that, and I understand it being like, look, if there are really no alternatives, then screw him. Like, if Vivek was not up there, I would not be in support of any of those people. Literally zero of those people I would really be for. Now, I would basically just be like, I guess I got RFK. Like, that's the person that I have to like root for at this
Right.
point.
Yeah, but like at a certain point, you do have to. I mean, I understand the idea of taking the pledge. Like, I don't like it 100%, but I understand the idea of like of the idea is that you can't is that you kind of have to you
I'm
can't
not a
just like
fan of
say
it.
my guy or else. Yeah, like it's my guy or else I might even vote for the Democrat. It's like
I'm
okay,
not interested in the pledge.
I,
I'm not
I
interested in the pledge because I'm interested in the person. That's
yes,
who I'm interested in.
that is true for me also. I'm just saying, and I don't really like the pledge either. However, I understand it. I understand it because there are so many people these days that have the luxury to to live on the moral high ground of like just the purest sense of like I get exactly this. If I don't get this, no. Fold their arm and they're not gonna do it. Then my guy, then screw you guys, I'm going home. And it's just it's I'm not a fan of the pledge, but at the same time, I think there needs to be there needs to be more cohesiveness with people hearing others and not just creating enemies and getting so worked up to just like shut down. It's like, well, then they suck all together if they won't do this. Like
Yeah.
the only one that I mean, honestly, I really, really, really don't like Asa Hutchinson. If a nuclear bomb landed and he was the only one left to run against Joe Biden, I would vote for the asshole because I feel like Biden is not even there. He's not even a human. Not it's just like being run by the deep state.
Well, that's yeah, but here's the thing though, is that Hutchinson would also be run by the deep state.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, I
Chris
understand.
Christie would be run by the deep state, right? The only other person besides Vivek that may not be run by the deep state, I believe, is Ron DeSantis. And even him, I feel like would probably end up being run by the deep state. I think he would get his primary objectives and agenda pushed through, his Florida agendas pushed through, but I think that he would take his modus operatum of taking control. He comes off to me like a power hungry person. I will not allow for these people to do this thing. I will not allow these people to do this other thing. I will make sure that people's
Yeah,
lives are not controlled by this thing. Instead, it has to be controlled by my thing. That's how he ends up coming off. And I feel like that can really be twisted around to the establishment's favor.
I hear that. Um, I, I see that is I instead see that as him being committed and not a charismatic person. I
Dude,
see him as being committed and just saying, I'm going to say the strong thing because this is what I believe. But like, that's what I feel like. I feel like it's that, but he doesn't have the way of saying. He doesn't have a vague way of saying like, you know what, this I'm going to absolutely do the border thing. I'm absolutely blah, 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 blah. You know, like he just has this way about him of just being like, just kind of la 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 while saying the strong thing.
Dude, okay. So he did this one thing, and I had an argument with somebody because he said like I can't remember what the original thing was that somebody was complaining about of him saying something that was overboard. But in this debate, he said they will be shot dead. They will be dead. And he's talking about the cartels or whatever, drug runners. Basically, I think it was like fentanyl people. Drug runners with fentanyl. They would be dead. Right? And I was like, whoa.
Well,
now,
you know, here's the thing though. Christie said, I definitely agree with most of that. I think most of us in the stage agree with most of that. So I mean, I don't feel like anyone was, and Ramos, no one put their hand up and saying, "Hey, I disagree with that." No one did that. Not even Vivek. So I think that most people were on board with the idea of like the drug.
I think people are more or less, if anything, they're hesitant to comment on it, because that is a bold stance. That is a very bold thing to say, and that is politically, you're aiming to kind of get yourself into a little bit of trouble. Because
I am for shooting people, if meaning a sense of like, if we well established to say, hey, anyone that crosses this line after such and such day here, we're
sure.
shoot people.
Sure. I mean, if you set the boundaries,
right?
If you set the boundaries and you say, hey, you do this, you're getting shot.
I'm sorry if you're breastfeeding, but you have to go down. You can't come across. I mean, you don't do that. I'm exaggerating on purpose. It's funny, but what I mean is that you will have fewer people that will venture to try if they think their life is on the line. So what I'm saying is you try to use peace through strength in that type of mentality.
Okay.
You obviously don't want to shoot a bunch of people. You don't want to just mow people down.
You're going to dissuade them.
We have a wall now of bodies to stop everyone coming. You know, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
But you want to deter people by having something that is, instead of just saying like, don't come across, don't do it, come back here. You know, it ends
up being a weak policy in functionality. But if you say, you want to cross this line, we're going to shoot you. You're going to be dead. Are you sure you really want to do this? You got a decision to make. Do you really want to do that? So I guess I understand that level of it, but still at the same time, like, if they're okay, I would almost levy it like this: if it's gonna be like shocking and like a whoa, and maybe that may have been a mistake for Vivek to call these people a puppet. Yeah. Maybe it was a little bit shocking and a little whoa. Maybe I shouldn't have said it. For this, I'm gonna shoot you if it crossed.
Maybe I was.
To me, that's how.
I see your point.
So I guess we're kind of on the flip side, which I think is actually a great thing for the show. You know.
Yeah. So I just thought of a cool idea. What if we said that you come across, if you run, we shoot you. If you don't, we fingerprint you, and you will never be allowed to be in America ever.
That's a pretty sweet. Right. I haven't thought of that.
I just did too. So it's like, you know what?
And that's like, pretty good.
You know, it's like, if you run, we shoot you. If not, we'll just collect you, fingerprint you, and make sure that we're documented. You are never allowed here.
Yeah.
And then you won't be able to ever exist in any sort of legal sense ever. And so something along those lines.
That would be. Like, I mean, I never thought of that.
I just thought about it.
I bet you a lot of other people haven't thought of that either, and I think it's actually a really good one. That's a pretty good, a very interesting policy. Maybe the shooting aspect is a little further than my tastes. I think simply fingerprinting them.
So they don't run. I think they need to not run.
Well, they can get caught. You know, if they can get caught. So, you know, hey, I got some Democrat blood in me, so I'm a little more hesitant to shoot people.
You know what?
But
okay,
I get it. I get that.
I understand it might be it might be a little bit hyper emotional for me because I feel things so deeply about this. I hate how the border is not respected and how it just happens this way.
Yeah.
Maybe there's that, but in my own workplace, um, I got someone fired because they stole someone's apple out of the fridge because that's
Oof.
disrespectful to someone else's lunch. Like especially he's actually just girl that is like just fighting constantly to be on a diet and just doing just and like every calorie she's like counting like yes I get to eat this and then you get to the point where like you're screwing with someone's life.
And
I
you
don't know.
had this asshole who just
I
comes
got him
over
fired.
and just
Yeah,
steals her the
it kept on
joy of
happening.
her day.
Yes, it's because it kept on happening and I caught him
Okay.
and yeah, it kept
There
on
you
happening,
go.
and I caught him and said, "Hey, no." It's like, "No, that's not okay." He's like, "What? It's just an apple." I'm like, "Yeah, asshole. That's not just an apple." And I went to the higher ups, and
You
he's
know,
gone.
I think that that was actually initially I was kind of like, "Whoa, that's a harsh one," but keeps on happening, dude. You can't be going around stealing people's lunches all the time.
Well, I
Seriously,
never
that's
proved it was him
messed
doing
up.
all of it, but still, the problem suddenly doesn't exist anymore after he's gone. So, but like, I don't like the disrespect idea in general. Why people don't respect, like, if you just
Yeah,
have weak sauce policies, no one will respect it and just do whatever the hell they want. So that's
true.
how it translates.
You know, I
It's you
bet
need to be
you,
able to have strong stances.
I'll bet that the next job that he got, he didn't steal anybody's lunch,
Maybe,
right? Like, you know,
maybe.
he was probably the bully that in school that would steal other kids' lunches and be like, "It's whatever."
Um,
I
I
bet you he was one of those
in this
guys.
case, it was just the guy is an idiot and didn't care about anyone else. He cared about what he wanted. Oh, I want some food. What are we having? But he didn't care about anyone else.
Yeah,
And because there's no real punishment for it, he just kept on doing it. And if he feels like he can get away with it somewhere else, he'll still do it somewhere else. He's an idiot. He's just an idiot. So I mean, it's whatever. But that's why
dude.
you have to have the actual lines that people know that they're being watched on, or else they're just going to do whatever they want.
You should just like when he's on the toilet, just like grab the bottom of his pants and pull them off, and be like, "Dog, I want these right now," and he's just stuck with walking around in some shitty underwear.
uh,
Stupid.
anyhow,
Okay,
so the debate in general, it was there were too many people on the stage. Uh, hopefully next time it'll be down to 4 or something.
yeah. I think I honestly I don't know that it was necessarily to me that there was too many people because the ones on the edges were more or less quiet, but all the ruckus was happening, and honestly, I felt like it was pretty entertaining, and I felt like Vivek came out on top on a lot of it. I can see and understand some of the perspectives. I think that Pence, from some people's perspectives, could have taken some victories out of that. I think that Chris Christie could have taken some victories out of that. I don't. I think that um, I don't know how much Nikki Haley necessarily got victories. I think she got kind of like a neutral at
Yeah.
best. And then DeSantis, I don't think he gained any ground, and I don't think he lost any ground. But I think that of everybody that participated in it, I think that
Well, Vivek stood out for
Vivek
sure.
stood
Vivek.
out the most, and I think that he ended up becoming the champion of that debate, in my opinion.
I'm curious to hear what these other guys think. Although, like, I listened to Daily Wire stuff earlier, like in the week and stuff, and it's amazing how much of a naysayer Ben Shapiro is towards Vivek. He's like, it's because he's a DeSantis guy. It's
That
I
kind of
hate
stuff, man. When
hate
people
him.
start going
I hate
towards establishment type people,
so I don't have a problem with him liking DeSantis. I just hate that it feels like it feels like it's tainted his view on different things. Like I can feel the flavor of DeSantis in what he talks about. He does say sensible things. He does say positive things about Trump and says
says
positive things about
harsh
the
things
debate.
too.
Yeah. But he does. He'll say that about DeSantis too. He says nothing. He says, but I can just but when I'm hearing him, I can hear the him wishing the world will arrange differently such that DeSantis could be the one. And he's, I don't know. It's kind of bothersome. But I am still curious what the Daily Wire people have to say here that I'm going to find out afterwards. Their little after show.
Hey, we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
But I think let's cap this off at around
Yep.
40 minutes. I think that's a pretty good time. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you're notified the next time we do one of these. Because we're coming. We're coming. We're not stopping. All right, everybody, take it easy. Later.